In the United States, under both federal and most states' laws, workers are entitled to be paid correctly. Here's what we see as the 5 most common wage and hour violations, at least in the state of Illinois. Number 1, by far, is that workers are not being paid overtime in many instances, or when they are, it's being computed incorrectly. So, for example, you may be paid straight time for every hour you work, whether you work 40 hours in a week or 50. You get $15 per hour or some set amount. Next is getting paid a set amount per day, whether you work 1 day a week or 7 days a week. If you are getting a set amount per day, you may be entitled to a premium for those hours you worked in excess of 40 in a work week. The next most common overtime violation that we see is that many companies actually compute it incorrectly. So, for instance, you may get $10 per hour and you would get $15 for your overtime rate. But you also get paid commissions or shift differentials or certain types of bonuses on a regular basis. When you get paid these, that's supposed to be factored into your overtime rate so that you get a higher overtime premium for those hours worked in excess of 40 hours in a week. The next most common wage violation that we see, at least in the state of Illinois, is that workers are not always paid their vacation when they stop working. In Illinois, when you stop working, if you've accrued vacation, you must be paid the monetary equivalent of your accrued vacation upon termination. And that matters whether you're fired or you voluntarily quit. Your employer cannot withhold your vacation pay. Next, in Illinois, it's illegal to make deductions from pay without a written consent at the time the deduction is made. So, for example, if you work in a restaurant and you drop some dishes, they can't deduct that from your pay unless you sign something authorizing them to do it. They're not supposed to deduct for uniforms and other things unless you sign something saying you're willing to do it. And in any event, it should never cause your wages to drop below the minimum wage. Finally, number 4, the most common area that we see violations occur in is among restaurant workers. Restaurant workers frequently have overtime and other wage violations. A lot of tip pooling violations. You have to share your tips with other workers. Sometimes that's okay, but many companies get it wrong. If they do, you may be entitled to the regular overtime rate and also the regular minimum wage for all of the hours that you worked. Restaurant workers often frequently make improper deductions and also don't pay overtime. And finally, many companies make their employees work off the clock. The reason for that is that management often gets pressure from the higher ups that they don't want to have the labor hours exceed a certain amount. If you're required to punch out and continue to work when you're not clocked in, that's illegal. You're entitled to be paid for the time that you work.